Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Alex Babayev. Thanks for being on the show, Alex.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Alex began his real estate career at the young age of 21 when he bought his first condo in Atlanta. Ever since the sale of that first property, Alex has maintained a passion for buying and selling real estate and has never looked back. Currently, Alex specializes in value-add renovations, maximizing client ROI, and also works with investors from across the country who are curious about investing in real estate, but who may not have the time, experience, or knowledge, but do have the capital to invest. Alex, welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to this conversation because you have created a method for yourself to really get into real estate and scale when maybe syndicating may not always be the answer, right? And you found another way in this business to make it happen at a large scale and be really good at it. So welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Give us a little about that background, and let's dive into how you got up to your current business model.
Yes, sure. So I started in 2011 with a small 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom condo in Atlanta. At that time, I bought it for $11,000. It sounds like a joke now, but back then, we bought it off the HUDstore.com. It was a government platform where it was for primary resident occupants. So I was going to college and I wanted to live closer to Georgia State University. So this property I bought for $11,000. I later ended up renting it out and then selling it. But, I started small, very small, 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom condo. That led to partnering with some people doing more rentals and then doing flips and all that. And, meanwhile, I was working in corporate America and my background is accounting, finance, and my master's in tax. So I worked several years in different companies doing finance, accounting, and tax. My goal was always by the age of 30 to achieve financial freedom through real estate investing, right? So I was able to do that by 29. My goal was to get to $10,000 a month in passive income. So currently we have my rental portfolio, is around 40 properties and consists of single family, townhouses, smaller multifamily units. But, I focused heavily on doing flips. So I did over 100 flips in Atlanta. And, when you're doing those flips, the capital gains is intense. So, you have to offset that with some depreciation and passive income. So that's sort of how I got to where I'm at now and focusing more on building out a rental portfolio through these value add small multifamily properties that we're finding.
Nice. And I know he said he's into flips. I mean, he did over 100 flips in Atlanta. So he's done a number of flips in that market and knows that market well. But now you're not just flipping small homes, you're flipping smaller multifamily properties. And I know even before the show, we were talking about like, instead of thinking you have to syndicate or all the guys and gals that are looking for that 100+ unit deal for their first deal, there may be another option for you if you're in a market that's as competitive like Atlanta. So let's dive into that business model a little bit. And, you're looking for small multis now, and tell us just your thought process a little bit behind what you're looking for and how you're finding those deals.
Yeah, so the small multifamily market is a very interesting space and a very lucrative space also. So we come across properties and they're mainly owned by people who have owned them for 20, 30, 40 years. So that population of ownership right now of the properties are basically between 65 to 85, I would say. So we're seeing a lot of people in that age starting to exit. Either their family doesn't want it, their kids don't want it, so they're selling off these assets. Now, the problem in today's modern market is that these properties are not to 2021 standards. They're not appealing to the modern consumer. So we're coming in there, the rents are around $400, $450, $500 for a 2-bedroom, let's say. And that's just not realistic in today's market, with the price of rent going up. So we're coming in there, we're, basically dealing um, and getting people out of the units. And, some people, it actually works out because they want better conditions. They're willing to pay more rent for a nice modern unit with new cabinets, granite. So we've successfully actually transitioned lots of people. Not that we're, sometimes we get a bad rep that we're kicking people out and raising rents, but actually I feel like we are providing cleaner, safer, and housing that people want to have. It's not much of it out there. So we are sort of finding a solution for this void in the market. But basically we like the small multifamily market because it's basically, to me, like flipping a house, but I'm multiplying everything. If there's 8 bathrooms, I'm doing 8 vanities, 8 toilets, 8 tubs. So to me, it's sort of more efficient and actually easier than actually flipping a house, I would say. And that flipping experience and managing rental properties has really helped on this side as well.
You can flip an 8 unit a lot faster than you can flip 8 single family homes, right?
Yes. You get 1 permit for the whole building. You don't need 8 separate permits like you would on 8 houses. And it just makes it more efficient. And but the problem is you have to be backed by savings, have a capital account, basically, because the numbers add up. The profits, basically, I say, your profits have an extra 0 at the end, but so do your expenses. If so, you just have to be prepared going in. And the sort of on these projects, they're considered commercial. So actually, the way you do electrical, plumbing, and all that is a little different. So you have to be aware of these nuances that are different. And flipping apartment buildings, flipping houses, you have to be compliant with ADA, compliant with the parking lot, and all this different stuff. So you pick up on these things, but after a while, it sort of becomes a routine and second nature, and you're able to provide value on these small properties.
What's been your best source of finding this type of property?
So, it's unbelievable, but the MLS, what happens on the MLS is, the way I do it is, okay, a property comes up. I don't even pay attention to what the guy listed it for, right? So I'm over there, let's say an 8 unit pops up. I'll give you an example. I bought a 6-unit building. It was listed for $500,000. I bought it for $325,000. Now this thing, some people would think, oh, I'm insane. Why would I even offer that? But I made a legit offer. I broke everything down from exterior renovations to interior renovations. I put pricing of roof, windows, HVAC. I made a logical argument, and the guy accepted $325. So there's nothing. And again, that comes down to underwriting. I don't care what the price is. I disregard that completely. I come up with my own price, submit a legitimate offer with support. That's very important because you don't want to offend the person. But when you're presenting a person facts, and most of these people who own these buildings, they're sort of sophisticated investors. So they sort of can tell if you're trying to sort of, deceive them or lie to them. But when you approach them honestly with facts, this is how much a deck costs. Your deck is all rotted out. So, I've had success off the MLS making these offers and negotiating. And also I spent a lot of money up front on building basically a credibility packet. If you go to my website, alexbabayev.com/portfolio, I have videos of there before and after, during, photos before, during. So when you show people this sort of credibility packet and videos, it's a lot better than you just submit a GAR form and say, oh, here's my offer, 150,000 below your ask, right? So sort of doing it strategically, methodically, and logically, and using my finance background to sort of present it in an Excel format and a usable, easy to read, document for the seller.
I think that's very wise. You're not just lowballing them with nothing else said, right?
Yeah.
Like here's some lowball offer, really just making them mad and shutting the door in your face, right? But tell us about that first contact. You see that on the MLS. Maybe then you start doing some underwriting or creating that package you're going to send to that person. Are you sending that right away, or are you calling them just to create some rapport? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I'll see the listing on the MLS, let's say, then I'll see the images right away by that, this is something that I can add value to. And I then begin talking to the listing agent, sort of feeling them out, explaining to them, seeing if they're even aware. Some people are not aware because on these small multifamilies, they could be residential realtors listing like an 8-unit apartment building, right? So they may not even be aware of what I'm talking about, that the asphalt needs $25,000 of work and all these other things. So I sort of feel out the agent, tell them I'm going to send them an offer, explain to them that I'm going to go to the property. I'm going to, usually I don't walk, nobody lets you walk the units, until you're under contract. So I at least do the exterior, take photos, and literally submit like a PDF document with photos. Look, deck falling off, roof here, tree removal, sir. So I just put this together, submit it to them. And, I didn't get deals. Basically, there's several times where they picked other people over me. And my most recent deal that I just sold, I got that deal 6 months after. So, they came back to me eventually because they kept going under contract, going out of contract, under contract, out of contract. So there's a lot of people sort of who want to do this business who, okay, I'll pay the 500,000 it's listed at, but when logic settles in, there's no way that thing is worth 500,000. So, you don't get these deals instantly, but eventually, most of the times these people have come back to me.
Nice. And I think you just made a great point right there. You make the offer, maybe they don't even respond or whatever, but sometimes they come back. Do you have an example of that, or maybe how long it took, or maybe just when you finally say, you know what, we're just going to hold on that. I'm not going to offer anymore. We're going to wait and see what happens.
Yeah. So right now I have a live example where this month we sold a 6-unit building. So this building went on the market in July of 2020. I made an offer. They didn't pick my offer. They went with someone else. Then it was on the MLS constantly, back on, back off, back on. Eventually, I bought it in September or October of 2020. And for my price, the interesting thing is I bought it for the price I offered at 300,000, 6-unit building. And the guy even put on a new roof. He did like all these other things because he was hoping to get that higher price point that he wanted, but nobody gave it to him. So by him not accepting my offer, he actually added stuff himself to the building. And, we picked up that building. The rents were for $450 a unit. We did complete interior renovations. And right now, when we sold it, it was, we got the rents to $1,050 to $1,100 per door. So huge value add. And, it's a completely different building, completely different tenants in there. So this stuff is still possible. And, in this market, like next week, I'm closing on a 17-unit building. Now that one we found off market. But these deals, these small multifamilies are possible even in today's market.
Nice. No, I just think that breathes a little hope into a lot of the listeners' ears as well. Maybe they can't find that 100-unit deal, or they're struggling to get there, but hey, there's still some deals even, in the small multifamilies as well. Tell me a little bit about, how do you know when you're planning to hold something or to sell it, or, hold long-term? How do you develop your business plan around that?
Yeah. So basically, into market, some of my properties that have sort of taken a double, I like to take some money off the table. So, some of these, they're cash flowing and all that. Everything's good, but, there's no like logic, or it's just sort of, sometimes you're like my strategy, I wanted to shift from some residential assets to some commercial assets. So we bought a medical building now, and we're doing a value add play there. So, repositioning capital, I feel like, is important because, you can't constantly keep doing refis. That's expensive. And then some of these loans have these prepayment penalties, which, adds on more cost. So sometimes, I feel like there's nothing wrong with selling the asset, taking some money off the table, and, doing this process all over again, even if you do it in a different asset class, like storage units or medical office buildings. But, to me, it's sort of, I don't feel like people say, you need to focus on one niche, apartment buildings, but to me, it's sort of all value add renovations. That's what I'm comfortable with. And, taking an asset that's distressed and bringing it back up to modern standards. So I've sort of, I've been doing it around 10 years. So I'm very comfortable comfortable, and you start seeing patterns. Basically, like if you look at a shopping center, you see the signage is all outdated, faded. You see the parking lot is all cracked and chipped. So you pick up on these things, and you're like, hey, he's selling this building. If I put in 150,000, you can completely change this. So that you. With experience, basically. And that's why analyzing deals is so important. Like I spent, when I first, my started like a few years, would analyze deals every morning, because once you start doing that, even if it's something you don't want off the MLS, you start seeing the pictures, you start seeing the descriptions, you start seeing the pricing of the asset. And then it becomes sort of, you have all these things in your tool belt that you can pull from when you need to, pull the trigger and actually make the offer. So it's like practice.
That's right. It's consistent, right? Consistent practice where you start to see those photos, you start to see things you didn't see before. Are you wondering how to build trust between you and your investors? The InvestNext portal houses everything you need to raise capital online, deliver professional reporting, process distributions, and more. When booking a demo at investnext.com, enter promo code Whitney for 15% off your first 3 months. Alex, what's been the most challenging part for you, to scale, at this level and start to just create this kind of business?
Well, the challenging part, we used to have challenges like finding money, putting deals together and stuff. But sort of when you do a couple of these, you build trust in the community with private lenders. Currently, I would say, even though we're finding deals, it's still very challenging because we don't want to overpay. And our current biggest challenge is the cost of material. So, the reason why sometimes I can't pay as much for assets right now is not because the asset isn't worth that much. It's because the material cost for me to renovate the asset has gone up by 30% for me, for example. So that's sort of a big challenge that I'm having to talk to sellers about now and explain to them, that, I agree with you. This building may be worth 300,000, like you're saying, but my material cost has gone up. How am I supposed to renovate it? Some sellers, they don't even know. That's the problem. That's why you have to educate and talk to the agents, the sellers. They don't know a 2x4 is $6 right now in Home Depot, where it used to be $350, a year and a half ago. But that affects me drastically when I'm replacing several decks. I mean, we're talking about, 10. Then when we have to frame out bedrooms and all that, this is huge, expense right now that we are having to price in, basically.
It is a huge expense, big change for anyone in our industry and many industries right now in construction. I know there's places in the country where a piece of plywood, can be anywhere from $70 to $80 a sheet, as opposed to, 30 or 35 or less, so no
so
doubt.
That drastically affects our CapEx, right? Our reserves, right. All of that completely changes, and you have to be aware of these things. That's why it's not just real estate that we're doing. It's everything is involved here. Politics affects it. We were importing stuff from China. We were paying the tariffs that President Trump put on. The micro and macroeconomics. That's why you have to be up to date. What's going on with lumber prices, metal prices, HVAC systems. All of this basically is how you form these offers. All of this has to come together, not just one thing.
How are you preparing for a downturn, or when you're buying a property like this? What's your thoughts about, if a downturn happens in the next, 6 months?
Yeah. So, I have people from my consulting side who've been coming to me for years and saying, what if the market goes down this year? What if they miss huge opportunities? But internally, I'm very cautious of it because we protect our money with everything we have, but we protect our private lenders, our investors' money even harder, right? So that's the most important thing. So we are very cautious on our buys, and in Atlanta, our rental market is unbelievable. So to be honest, I feel like if I'm underwriting $1,000 per unit and things come down, I still have room, but that's part of the reason why I am selling some assets that have lots of equity and sort of trying to reposition them again to more distressed assets and rebuild them up from ground up, because we have seen a huge spike in the cap rate compression, spike in prices on the sell side. So, and I don't think, honestly, people's salaries has not caught up to the amount to how rent has gone up. If you look on a chart, right? So at some point, these rent increases have to stop. I feel like there's a huge affordable housing problem. We have this huge eviction moratorium going on, which we haven't even seen the side effects of what's going to happen. We personally have people who are on being on the eviction waiting list from our properties. I know people in Metro Atlanta. We don't know how this is going to play out. And when this does play out, there may be some ripple effect that none of us can predict. So that's why, on these syndications, you see people buying these low cap rates, 5%, 4.5%. It's very dangerous, I feel like.
Yeah, no, that's some great insight right there. And you even mentioned, some things like just staying up to date on what's happening politically, and I mean, just in a bigger scale, right, than even your local market, and learning how it affects you. Is there anything that any specific, I don't know, ways that you stay up to date on those things and gather important information that you trust?
I host a monthly meetup here in Atlanta. And I feel like these meetups, these local meetups are very important to attend to, because you get a pulse. You get people who come there who are doing different aspects of real estate. You can all mingle and chat and see. And I feel like that gives me a huge insight, because you're sort of hearing it from the boots on the ground, the property managers, everyone who's involved, before sort of information goes public about what's happening, where the next development site is, where they're building mixed use. And so I feel like, I used to go to everything when I first started that had a real estate tag on it, to these events in Atlanta. That's sort of how I started networking when I was just starting. I feel it's very important. You can get a lot of information on these events.
That's true, Alex. Yeah, all the meetups are free. It is a great resource that most do not take advantage of. But I wanted to ask you as well, just your thoughts. I mean, after that data, after being surrounded by those people, in that market and in other markets as well, do you have any predictions over the next 6 to 12 months just in the real estate market?
I feel like, again, the very important factor here is going to be, a lot of mom and pop rental property owners are suffering right now, because we still have insurance, property tax, utilities due on all these properties, and the eviction moratorium is hurting people. So I feel like the government, by doing this moratorium, is going to have to face, some kind of consequences. And right now the owners are suffering. So we don't know. I feel like this is the big kick that we need to sort of be very cautious, again, like I said, of what's going to happen to all these people when the evictions get processed. What's going to happen to all these houses that people are still defaulting on their mortgages right now? So we have this big problem. We are not seeing this problem in the stock market. You see how the stock market keeps going up, and it's not picking up on these little factors that are happening on Main Street. But these problems are very real. And if you talk to any mom and pop owner, how long can they handle the hits of all these bills due, but no rental income coming in? So it's sort of going to be survival fittest, I say. And we, again, do not know the ramifications, how this is going to play out in the real estate space.
Yeah, none of us have a crystal ball, that's for sure. But there's definitely things we need to be watching, like things like you're mentioning, so we can, I guess, expect the things that we, I guess, have a plan, right? Having
you
a
need to
plan.
have. That's why some capital reserves and some. It's very important to have that. People get in trouble who do not have that in place.
Do you have a way of calculating like how much reserves you should have, or anything like that, a metric that you use?
So basically, for each building, we leave 3 months worth of mortgage payment, all that in there. Now that's just in that particular bank account. In general, our company, we have reserve. There's no formula or anything, but we have a cushion basically that we never go below. Threshold of a dollar amount. Let's say $50,000. This account will never go below, because we can allocate this account to any property that has a major issue, or So we've been fortunate enough to do that up front, and not deplete all of our capital. So we had to, we stopped some projects, for example, and canceled some expenses while this is going on.
No, that is smart. No doubt about it. Need a reserve budget. I'm really big on having, I know the listeners know I'm just big on having an ample reserve budget because cash is king when things are bad, right? Or things happen that you didn't expect. Alex, or do you have any daily habits that you are disciplined about that have helped you achieve success?
I mean, all I do, I live, breathe, and it's real estate, right? So I have a family and everything, but I'm very dedicated to real estate, to analyzing deals, to being around people who are in real estate, and to attending events and, going on podcast platforms. So I feel like being deeply involved in reading forums and magazines related to real estate allows you to be successful, because when it's sort of hyper focused, basically, like I don't know anything about the stock market, I don't know about crypto, nothing. I know real estate, right? So I feel like when you sort of zone in on it like that, you sort of the books you read are real estate, and like I said, the people you talk to are real estate. So it provides you a level of confidence and a level of knowledge that you become sort of an expert. People come to you, and that's sort of how you get deals, because people see that, you're not doing crypto one day, selling life insurance the other day. All you know is real estate 10 years in a row. That's all that guy does.
Right. No, that's wise. Hey, what about the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
I would say the success, to everyone is defined differently. So to me, I would say my success was leaving corporate America, because that freed up so much of my time where I was balancing a 9-to-5 job and real estate on the side. Once I was able to achieve that financial freedom and not have to worry about a paycheck, I feel like that opened up a whole different lane, because now you can spend 9 to 5 doing real estate. And, it's very important for people who are trying to make that transition from corporate America. It's very uncomfortable to do it because, you get your guaranteed paycheck and insurance and all that. But I feel like the ultimate success, if what you want to do is be fully engaged in real estate, once you get that burden off whatever job you're doing and just focus, it's amazing. It's like, you are free, and you can, attend masterminds. You can do, nobody's like, oh, I have this assignment due in the back, So I feel like the success basically to me was to get the freedom to do real estate.
That's awesome. I love that answer too, because it's like you can attack it then at a whole new level that you never could before. Alex, how do you like to give back?
We different communities we go into, we try to always be engaged with the kids and the families there. So, if they need help, for example, moving expenses, or we gave them a 60 days notice to vacate, but they need help paying a security deposit before they get our deposit. Like, we just do different things. We work with people who are in these communities that we're buying in, and we try to assist them, not just sort of, we sent you a notice to vacate and that's it. So we, have done several things where we've paid for moving fees. We've done different things to help them, to alleviate, because these people have been in these places for a long time, 5 years, 8 years. So imagine, me coming and just giving them a 60-day notice. So we try to help them out and make it as painless as possible. And, people have been happy, and, that's our main goal basically, is to make easy, smooth transitions and give back to them. For us, it's in a form of money by helping them, go to a new place. And then, we internally do some events around town where we give back to city of Atlanta, like Feed the Homeless event and stuff like that we've done in the past.
Nice. Well, Alex, grateful to meet you, and really just to help us to think, us that are just focused on the syndication business. Hey, maybe we're missing some opportunities over here, especially in the markets we're familiar with, where we could be doing some smaller multifamily as well. And so it's just grateful for you just really broadening our minds to that and hearing how you've been so successful at just working these smaller multifamily properties and flipping them and understanding the business very well and creating your business, in a big way. So grateful to meet you. How can the listeners get in touch with you and learn more about you?
I'm pretty active on Instagram. So I show some before, during, and after of our renovations and give some tips and tricks. So my handle is transformation_poppy. So you can follow me there. And, my website is just my name, alexbabayev.com. If you ever in the Atlanta market want to invest, you can reach out to me, alexbabayev.com, and my email, alex@aralproperties.com, ARAL.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.